6:30. I call this April 1st meeting of Select Board to order. This makes.
I'm here in person.
Yes.
I'm here. Yeah, Harrison is here. and
John is here.
Brown is here.
He's here.
Okay. Is there someone who can see the, people who are dialed in?
Yes,
Thank you.
Greg is on and I'm, keep a watch on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, you probably should. Sorry. We can do the whole thing over again because it's not recorded.
I don't think it's just, I don't,
Okay. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Hearing none, go to the chairman's report. I don't have a chairman's report. The next item, yes,
that we don't have liaison. Never mind, I'm on there in another capacity.
okay. We, at this point, we usually look at the action items. The only one that I noticed, is the, Human Rights and Inclusion Committee.
Yeah. I had some notes on that. I think we completed our action as a board,
Yeah,
and that should be removed from the action items list. Hope has an action to go, come back to us, but we gave her feedback. We're done until such time as a citizen comes forward with other information. Let's see. I think there was something else. Oh, regarding did you have anything else?
no,
I noticed the actions regarding the Downtown Improvement Committee needs to change to a 3-year term, but it's not clear to me what has to happen. What needs to take place to make that happen? I was surprised to see that on the action items.
I guess
It's one,
I've never changed the term limit.
We had,
Greg, I
Greg.
think wanted to say something.
Yeah, so you can make that a 3-year appointment when you do the next round of appointments in June.
Okay. So there's nothing we need to do
No.
to the charter. It's just when we do that in June. Okay. And did we complete the action to notify the committees and all of that?
Yep.
So
I
all
sent
of
it
the
out
board
last week.
chairs,
Yep.
okay, that was done. Great.
and I'm not sure we should take the proposed human rights off the to-do list because we still need to hear back. And that is something that
That's kind of the reason why I kind of kept it on there.
yeah, I kind of think that needs to stay on there. It's not been finalized.
resolved.
Is that a?
Well, let's put it this way.
Quarterly
Take my name
tickler?
off of it. I have no action on that.
Yeah.
I took that action because of the work we were doing on the governance project.
Right.
And we were waiting to give her a response. We've given her that response. So if somebody else has an action they'd like to take, I don't have one.
That can be a quarterly tickler.
Do we even know if Hope is going to come back and when?
We don't know, but we
I
could
don't
put
know.
something in
When
June.
that time comes, then we'll see.
But I still think it's an agenda item that we weren't, sorry,
Yeah.
Brian.
Debbie, could you contact Hope and point out to her that we're waiting for her?
Oh, she already knows. She contacted me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So she knows that we're waiting for her and we're not going to both sit here forever.
Right. I will follow up with her again.
Yeah, perhaps get an estimation as to when she's going to come back to us. The last thing I had was the action on the North Shore Regional 911 review. We did get the metrics sent out to all of us.
Mhm.
With all the reading we had for this meeting, I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but I thought it might be good to have the discussion on that when we do the discussions with the police and fire chiefs. That's gonna happen at the next meeting.
Sure.
I-
Let's
okay.
put the review of the North Shore 911 on forums.
When did we get those?
The police chief mailed them to us and Debbie did as well last week sometime.
It's-
Yeah, you got
It was
it.
a long report.
Yes, it
I
was.
noticed that.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is why I didn't.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else in the actions that we need to? Okay,
Other than we've got the update on Arbella and the National Grid update. That's not a specific item on the agenda, but we do have it here.
right,
So Greg, were you able to, did you hear back from Sabitha in the 48 hours?
Yes, I did. And so that started in motion a series of back and forth with Black Earth and different people at National Grid. Some confusion over whether or not all the necessary permits were in hand. Indeed, they have been in hand, and some of the National Grid folks knew it, but not others. We are still waiting to hear about the delivery date for that transformer. So that's still up in the, we still haven't had confirmation of a delivery date.
On both of those, so the delivery date as well as the other person on Arbella, she was going to 7 Arbella, right? She was going to get information about that as well.
But yeah, she said she was gonna follow up on that. I don't know the status of that.
And then the other is on the agenda, so.
so that probably we should move to
Next,
the 16th.
National Grid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if we could have National Grid. Come, no?
Her performance the last time made it fairly clear that she can't produce information that she doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be fine if she got the information to Greg or Debbie when it's available. And perhaps, since we're putting more than on Debbie's list, you could give a nudge and say we would like to know what's going on Arbella as well as the Blackbird stuff.
Okay.
Right. The next item is to take up the town meeting. And the order on our agenda is to begin by finalizing the budget. I guess the thing to do with the budget is to ask if there are any, what we would do in town meeting, are there any holds? Are there any, I'd like to hear about items that people have questions on. Becky,
I have a question regarding the harbor master. And this, I don't know that this would specifically fall under this budget, but it pertains to the retirement group that he's classified in. And Greg, is that something that, how do we do that? Just because
So that- That would, yeah, it's separate from the budget process, but it would be making a formal request to county retirement that the positions in the harbor master office be reclassified. So it's
And how, just.
it's basically a
because-
petition process to the Essex County Retirement Board.
That's what you were saying, Debbie.
Yeah.
Okay, so they make the designation or the determination of the designation?
Correct.
Okay, well then I will bring this up at another meeting. Debbie, may I add that to an action item? Or, thank you.
June.
No,
Just a suggestion.
Yeah. Okay.
Becky, do you have anything else on the budget numbers?
No, not now.
Brian?
No, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Kathy?
Just on the, I just wanted Greg to review with us the new positions that are being added. Just a brief overview of why they're needed and, I guess the rationale for a permanent position rather than contractor labor to fill the gap. There aren't that many new positions, but just wondering if you could run through that.
Sure, so just continuing with the harbor master, so there is a proposal to add a new deputy harbor master, a full-time position to the department. It's currently a department with one full-time person and then seasonal workers. And just over the 12 or so years that we've had the current harbor master in his position, certainly the activity on the waters and the administrative workloads have increased fairly significantly. And the proposal is to add a new deputy position to help with that workload. So that's one position that's being proposed as being added. This second position is, as you indicated, we are embarking on a series of large capital improvement projects. And typically, one way to manage those projects is to hire a clerk of the works that is often through an engineering firm. The cost of that as an outsourced, the clerk of the works is, pushes, $175,000 to $200,000 a year for full-time work. And we can do that in-house in the 130 to 150 range. And felt that we would get better service having our own full-time person, and it would save dollars in the long run as well. So it would not be permanent. It would be a position that would be envisioned for the next 4 or 5 years, depending on where capital goes, facility projects go after that time frame. We would have to reevaluate. And the position, the folks that have expressed a high level of interest that might be hired for this position are folks who would not be vested in our retirement system, and therefore we would not have to worry about the long-term legacy costs of a retiree. It takes a minimum of 10 years to become vested in the system, and it's not envisioned that this position would be in place for that many years.
If I may.
So that's a second full-time position.
May I interrupt just quickly? When you give the number, the relative costs, did you include the non-retirement benefits? Health insurance.
So when you're so again, if you're not vested and you're not eligible for retirement,
Okay, but just what? Is that 150 just salary, or is it salary plus?
Is it fully loaded?
it's fully loaded, yes.
Okay.
It does not include legacy costs. Because they would not be vested and therefore they would not qualify for the legacy cost.
I also wanted to point out that the assistant harbor master position, excuse me, also comes into play with succession planning.
Mhm.
And so
There
that's,
has also been discussion with Essex about using some of our harbor master time to help them get their harbor under control. Not on the water, but in terms of organization, getting everybody who is actually moored in the harbor on a mooring list and with a paid permit.
But that doesn't, does that come into play with
It comes
the,
into
yeah.
place because that's something that this person could do in the winter,
Mhm.
in addition.
And
to-
Essex would pay us to have
And
them do it.
Essex, in theory, Essex would pay us to do it.
The other thing too, we were talking about, at some point, we gotta change the face of, who interacts with, the government agencies.
Mhm.
Right? And with buying on, then starting to back away from its responsibilities and government agencies becoming more and more comfortable dealing with, this deputy harbor master, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the session point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What else,
So-
Greg? I'm sorry.
I have a clerk of the works question. So is that going to be paid for through, say, the bond issue?
So what the finance committee is recommending is that, so we reduced the amount of bonding and we added the additional staffing cost to the DPW budget. And it's being split between the three departments, the DPW, the highway department, the water enterprise and the sewer enterprise.
Okay, so those numbers, we don't see those numbers right now.
They're in the budget. You don't see them itemized, but they are
Okay, all right.
they are in the, the highway salary line.
Yes.
And they're incorporated in the indirect cost of the water and sewer operations.
Okay,
So to that point, though, by not including it in the bond, and making it part of operations, there is no check and balance to make sure this is only a 5-year or 4-year position. If it's not part of the project money, that means it's built into the operations budget. And if Greg, for some reason, is not here in 4 to 5 years, and we are not here in 4 to 5 years, that becomes a permanent position. So I'm not completely sold on the finance committee's recommendation on that position. And I understand generally that you want the salaries of employees to be in the operational budget. Generally, that makes sense. But if we are targeting this as a not permanent position, like you said, then it does not make sense to, in my mind, to put it in the operational budget. It's too easy just to stay in there forever.
So it can go either way. Um, it's a ultimately it's your call. From an accounting perspective, it's a little more problematic to put it into the capital, but it certainly isn't impossible.
Okay, John, how do you?
yeah, no, I'm just kind of cogitating about that, and I understand the bond issue thing. I think I would prefer it in the bond because then it sticks out.
Right.
Otherwise it doesn't, although, and all of a sudden, yeah, somebody doesn't just have not very much to do. Work always expands to fill the void.
100%, 100%, you're right. And I
Um,
guess I would feel better, I mean, I think the probability that all 6 of us, are gonna be here 4 or 5
7 or 8 years.
years from now is not good. And there will be no institutional memory to have a check and balance on this position. So I agree with John. I think it's best from that standpoint to be part of the bond.
Becky?
Given that I don't have a background in finance and, it seems that you all understand it, I would defer to, either FinCom field or what you all, just because I don't have a great.
You saw my checkbook, you know that I don't have any background in finance. But I'd just defer to the finance committee on this one.
Okay, so the finance committee is saying, put it in the
Salary.
operation budget.
And I'm okay with it.
And although none of us may be around, the finance committee goes on forever.
Yes.
Mhm.
Sarah's gonna be like
Seeming.
talking about.
So
Can I ask
Sarah Melish,
Greg?
Sarah Melish does have her hand up if you want.
Okay. Yes, Sarah, please.
Yes, so when the finance committee looked at this, we felt by having the money in the operating budget, it's more accountable than just having it rolled into the capital budget. And when we made this change, the capital budget was reduced by 400,000 and the salary line was 90,000. And there was no increase in the other lines, such as medical, so that the medical was already covered enough in the budget. So it was a significant delta, and it didn't make sense to us that you pay interest and that you pay service debt on a position.
Okay, that makes sense to me. What, Sarah, could you explain what you think the accountability is to make sure that this position is not a permanent position and only 4 to 5 year position? Because that's the piece that I think John and I are questioning.
I think we need to make sure that Andrea has that in her records.
So how would that appear in the budget book next year, for example, Greg?
So in terms of the staffing chart for DPW, it would be flagged as a temporary clerk of the works position. So that would track from year to year in that sense.
And how does that work? When you say it's flagged, how is the tracking connected to that?
We could call it out as a separate salary line. That would be one way. And two, just in the staffing chart, it would be, you could indicate it as a temporary clerk of the works position.
I would be comfortable with that if it was a separate salary line specifically stating not to exceed 5 year position, or some,
But I don't think it
language in
needs to
there.
be, I think that, I think you need to have the flexibility.
Oh, understand, but there's gotta be a flag to the potential
set.
next town administrator and the next, select board to know that this was not intended to be. a-
Greg,
Chuck,
yeah,
Chuck has his hand up, Ann.
Jack, please.
I was just gonna echo Greg's thoughts. I mean, I do have a hierarchy. I have the people in my, I have the people in my budget. I can break it out accordingly to make it temporary. I would just say I actually do have a track record in this. Is we actually front loaded positions when we were expecting retirements, and then we reduced accordingly when those positions retired. So this is, in my mind, the exact same thing. I understand that some people may not be here, myself included, or people on the FinCom or on the board, but I think it's pretty easily, addressed within the text, not necessarily the budget lines.
my question would be is, given the capital project list that we have and looking and saying, oh, this is 3 or 4 or 5 years, frankly, we have 10 or 15 years worth of capital activities here. And right now, I know between you, Chuck, and Nate, you kind of split up your clerk of the works hats on the various projects that we got right now. We're going to be taking on more, which is more than what you and Nate can deal with, and that goes over there. But do you envision that just the ones that are on this bond issue right now are the only ones? Because we've got all kinds of other things that are lined up in the coming several years. And does this perpetuate that position?
I definitely think that's potential. But and it's definitely going to be year to year based on the projects that we have going on. Right now, this position is, I'm targeting more along water and sewer because those are the immediate upgrades that we're going to be making. But, it certainly could go longer, but that's not my intention now. But, I'm willing to have that discussion 4 or 5 years from now. It's just impossible to say. So you just got to do it one way or the other. in
Well,
terms of, where it
in
gets
order to
carried. in the
revisit
budget.
that, yeah, maybe it should be water sewer clerk of works.
Yeah,
So
I
we
mean,
define that.
yeah, and I guess I would just look at it a couple ways is, we're always, the select board, whether it's you guys or anybody else, is looking at, where are we fat and what are our salaries? So like, I think it's gonna be a discussion, no matter how we do it, years to come. I guess the only other thing I want to just make clear is like, this is not a nice to have. Like, we have to have this position,
Oh.
whether it's in-house or hired out because of the procurement laws. So just like when the schools do their multi-million-dollar projects, this is us doing, the town doing multi-million-dollar projects, and we have to adhere to the same, state procurement laws. So I just want to make sure that's understood. And, that's why, it can roll in or out if that's what, the boards deem necessary.
Let me see if I can summarize. Kathy was concerned that if it was part of the salary line, it would sort of get folded in, and the next time we needed a clerk of the works, we'd get a new one. So we'd have two. And what John is concerned about is we've got a lot of projects coming up. How can we guarantee that this person won't go on for more than 10 years? And my summary is, if the person has done a good job on the previous projects, then it will be worth our continuing and allowing him to join the retirement group.
It's more around not stating right now that there are sometimes when you hire a position that you really are figuring in for the long term. When Greg mentioned this particular position, he didn't position it that way. He positioned it as a 4 to 5 year
Mhm.
project management type role. And those type roles typically are not baked into an operational budget. So that was, I think, what stimulated the conversation. As long as there is some phrasing in the staffing lines or whatever, in my mind, as long as there's some phrasing in here that distinguishes this as something that needs to be relooked at, in 4 or 5 years, I'm fine. I just don't want it blended in with all the salary line items so that there is no check and balance on what our intent is today.
Right.
That's all.
Okay, so are we content to leave this as the finance committee recommended? Stay with the finance committee recommendation?
As long as
With
it's
the
notation
As long as
of,
there's a line item.
yes,
Right.
separate line item,
Right.
yeah.
Greg, what's your third person?
So then there's a proposed increase of hours for our communications coordinator. So Tiffany Marletta serves in that role, and has been, she started a little below halftime. We moved her up halftime and then 2/3 time and then 3/4 time, and this takes it up to full time. So it's an expansion from 3/4 time to full time. So that's the third position. And then the last position is not really adding hours, but it's consolidating a number of part-time positions into one. So we have land use clerks for the planning board, for the ZBA, for historic district commission, et cetera, and trying to consolidate that position into a single person who can then make sure that, the left hand knows what the right hand is doing in terms of different boards and the different permitting processes that are underway. Someone who can be in town hall during the week to provide customer support for applicants who are either seeking information before applying, or they're in the middle of application process and they need some input as to where it's going next, et cetera. So this would, as I say, consolidate those part-time positions into one full-time position.
On that one, how are the humans that are currently doing that work being impacted?
So we have some folks who are sort of hanging on, helping us out, but they are, some of them are looking to let go of the role they're currently playing. And others may want to apply for this full-time position.
So we're not adding funding, it's just truly a consolidation of hours into a full-time role?
Correct.
Okay. Was there anything on the assessor's office? Because we added a lot of salary, we had some big salary increases there. Was that additional hours or adding existing humans or you know?
So that's part of the shift. So those, the assistant to the assessor has been half and half. Building inspector and land use, and that shift is still a work in progress, depending on which way we're going with that. So it depends on some final discussions that are needed, and depending on final hiring and who takes on what role.
You have further questions?
I'm not sure I understood that last part, that was a bit confusing.
So right now, the dollars were split between the building inspector and the
Assessor.
assessors.
Right,
And so the new version shows all of those dollars in the assessor.
okay. But then
So there's a shift.
dollars
away.
so it's just a shift, not an increase overall to the budget.
Correct.
Okay. And those are the only positions?
Yes, those are.
Yeah, a couple of questions. On the itemized list of money appropriations, the library I know needs up to $150,000, but that money already exists because it was appropriated in a previous year. Correct?
Correct. So we'd be redirecting
Right.
those
But
funds. to a
The
new
itemized numbers for walkway repair, building assessment, reappropriation adds up to 50,000. And I'm just trying to match that up with the 150 that we need.
So the original capital allocation was 200,000 for the restrooms, new ADA restrooms at the library. And those have not moved forward.
Correct.
Based on a series of challenges. And so that 200 is being proposed to be divided up into three new uses. One is the 150,000 for the matching funds for the state grant to look at a possible renovation / expansion of the library. The second element is to fund at 43.5 a detailed assessment of the building, which is a precursor that's necessary for the submittal of the grant to the state, grant application to the state. And then the third element is 6,500 for improvements to the walkway, the
Okay. All
those
right, so I
slate.
understand. I understand what's going on there. On the same list, I don't know if this is the right time to bring that up. We got to get more police tasers, and I don't know if you're the guy to answer that question.
So,
We had a
It's-
long discussion at the last.
Yes, we did.
On that.
right, so it's not more, it's just the lease payments for the ones we have.
But those are lease payments.
We purchased the tasers for the officers on a lease to own arrangement.
Okay, you will
And,
get that question on April 24th,
Yes, you will.
yep. I'll make
or
sure,
Alan will.
I'll make sure the chief is prepared to answer that, but yes.
Okay, all right.
I forget if we're in the last year, we've got another year to go. But that's a detail I can find out.
My questions on the budget, in legal and professional services, you're up $40,000. We overspent our last budget by at least that amount, I think. Is that enough?
You know, it's a good question, Ann. Historically, we had done pretty well. This past year and a half is has been a whole different story. It's been a much higher burn rate on legal expenses. Is that a blip and will level back down, or is it a new trend? I am not sure. I fear it's more of a new trend, but we will see. So is it enough? You will see that we are asking for a supplement for this current year,
Mhm.
which is one way to deal with not having enough. And also using the FinCom reserve account or shifting dollars that have come in, expenses that have come in a little lower, frees up some dollars in some line items that we can shift towards legal in the last couple of months of the fiscal year.
So.
So
you
I guess,
You think that this may not be enough to cover our legal expenses, but there are other ways of covering them. And we can look at this question again next year. And make adjustments. This is not going to leave us in a major hole.
correct. That's my feeling on it, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I may, have one clarification. These are all the legal expenses, right? Because I think a year ago, we were talking about perhaps dividing it up into the various departments or groups that tend to use legal fees so that you knew what was going on in those areas. But this captures all of the legal costs?
It does. We have not divided it up. by the
Okay, I can't
boroughs.
remember what happened from that discussion.
So, but we do track
Mhm.
what dollars go for what.
Yes.
So we are able to do that analysis of where those dollars are going.
And if
Becky, of
to
course.
John's point, I think maybe it might be good to have some information in advance of town
Yeah.
meeting about how that's been used to date.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
for
that's-
example, if we had a lot of zoning
Yeah,
issues over the past year that our people were trying to do themselves and needed a lot of legal help with that.
Mhm.
The 40A work is being done by a lot of consultants with a lot of experience, so maybe the legal costs won't be as high.
And there's also a lot of needing to go to town council for planning board and things like that. But it might be good to have some general idea of what's going into
So
defending the ZBA at this point too.
for our next meeting, could Andrea produce an overview of where the legal expenses go?
Yeah, she has that ongoing. She updates it regularly, and Debbie's been helping with that.
I
as
guess
well.
it's not, could Andrea have it? Could we have it?
Yes. Absolutely.
One clarification, it says legal/professional services. Can we assume that this is largely just legal, or are there other expenses, professional expenses of significance that are in that pot?
It's primarily legal. There are occasional other professional services in there. But the bulk of it is certainly legal.
Okay.
My other question, is the Conservation Commission salaries, which went from 70,000 to 15.
And then you also see a large increase then in their operating expenses, because now we contract the agent as a shared agent with Hamilton.
Okay, you've explained that to me 3 or 4 times. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's really, I didn't back that either, so.
Okay, with that discussion, is there a motion to approve the budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Friendly amendment, just to make sure that with the note on, with the flagging
Mhm.
of that one
The
position.
DPW position.
Yes.
CPW clerk of the works to
Mhm.
be identified,
Mhm. Except,
except this. Further discussion? Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes,
John says yes.
excellent. Okay, we have. Yeah. Now. That's the operating budget. As presented. There's also a presentation of just. Where the revenues are and the budget summary. Is there anything in the budget summary that anyone would like to discuss?
And we will get to some of those when you go through the articles.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. No one seems to be jumping up and down. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting on the warrant. Are there questions on Articles 1 or 2? Article 3, which is the North Shore Agricultural and Technical School District. Nobody? Okay, that's $243,385. Gone.
Gone to good use.
I hope. Article 4.
Well, that's what you just did.
Article 5. Are there, Becky, do you have questions on Article 5?
I do not. No, I read them over and found that if they were moved from one, they were put to another.
Brian,
Not at this point.
Kathy?
Nope.
John?
I'm good.
Okay, my questions are, what were the storm damage repairs that were removed?
So-
Put in another area.
In the last couple, 3 years, we have started to add a line item for generic storm damage repair in that 25 to 50,000 a year range. And frankly, it was just trying to make the numbers balance that it was taken out this year.
Okay.
You know, we have some old damage still that we have not addressed fully. The West Beach or Stinky Beach, the wall there is certainly not as strong as it needs to be. So, but that's a very big project. So we do have some funds left in the storm damage line, the capital line from previous years, which was the main reason why I recommended not putting more money into it for now.
Okay. And the other one was the fire engine replacement fund. I understand that we just bought a ladder truck and this year we're buying an ambulance. But we still have other fire related vehicles that are going to have to be replaced in the future.
Yeah, so again, a question of dollars with that large outlay for the second ambulance. We were kicking the can a little bit on replenishing the replacement fund. And talking to the chief, obviously he'd prefer to have some money put in there every year, but I believe he feels that the schedule can do okay with a year's delay of starting to replenish it. He's listening in if he wants to chime in on that, but I think that's where we left the discussion.
Is Sarah Mellish still available? Sarah,
Suzanne?
do you have a comment on this?
Yes, I think that the fire chief gave us a long-term replacement plan. And that by putting the 470,000 into the ambulance, because we're appropriating the money for the ambulance 2 years before it will be delivered. So therefore, based on the recent acquisitions we've made, we felt it was appropriate to just put all the money towards the ambulance and then restart the replacement fund next year.
Thank
And
you.
in order to order the ambulance, you have to show that you have the full appropriation. So you can't
Order half an ambulance?
order half an ambulance.
All right. Question, I know that it was about a year ago that we looked at the fund schedule. Greg, can you ask Chief McNeely to kind of update that, or maybe Andrea updates that? I'm not sure who does. Because I've kind of lost track of where things are with the ambulance, which was not on that schedule per se, and now it's here, the 470 hit. And of course, the ladder money is now spent, so things have shifted around a little bit.
Chief
So
is
yeah,
on.
so the chief does have
Chief
it.
there?
Good.
Yeah, so when I submitted my apparatus replacement plan to both the board and the FinCom, the ambulance 2 was added just because the time delay to get an ambulance is 2 years. And if, God forbid something happens to our current ambulance, that you just can't go to the dealership and pick them up. So that was added, I want to probably say 5 or 6 months ago during one of my last reviews.
Okay,
So we can get you that new schedule as well.
that'd be good.
The chief has that laid out.
Yeah, I'll send it over tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 5? Okay, is there a motion on Article 5?
We doing the whole thing? or-
Yeah,
I'm trying to approve the warrant
as we go.
as we go. We did not approve 1 and 2. We did approve
1, 2, 3, that was
1, 2, and 3 are just sort
cumulative.
of, so I think we did vote on 4.
Okay, motion.
Maybe we can ask Debbie. Debbie, what did we have?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't.
Okay, fine,
My
Fine,
impression was we did 1, 2, and 3.
okay,
You want a motion on these?
sure.
Okay, motion on 4, on
If-
4 and 5?
Yes,
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Article 4 and 5. I'm trying to think, did we change anything in 4? I don't think so.
That's where we talked about the DPW position. That's why I
Yes.
think we already approved that.
We already proved that separately in an
Yes.
earlier task. Okay, so,
We approved
Budget.
4.
so then I'll just make a motion to approve
Or
Article
did we
5.
just do it on the,
We approved it under the budget.
Budget.
when we
Under the
approved
budget.
Not on the-
But we haven't
Okay.
approved the article,
got it, okay.
so we want 4 and 5.
All right, so approve Articles 4 and 5 as shown here.
Second,
further discussion? Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes,
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John says yes.
Okay. Article 6. Which is the lunch service.
I think we need to, whomever speaks on this needs to make sure that it's made abundantly clear that this is going to be a self-sustaining enterprise, or it will cease to function if it goes forward. So this is essentially to get it started.
Yeah, so I agree. I think the article language needs to be beefed up to make it clear we're not intending to use taxpayer dollars. But how is Bion doing with the signups? Because he had until April 15th, I think we gave him to get the signups.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the latest count, but he was pretty pleased with the response he's been getting. But I don't have an exact number for you.
When is the deadline for getting this warrant approved?
We said the 15th of April.
Okay,
The 15th of April is the deadline for signups.
I'm asking about the warrant, Greg, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The warrant needs to be, we need to finalize the warrant tonight. It needs to be posted by Wednesday.
And we can change on the floor.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't be comfortable
Okay.
going through with it
Okay.
unless he has the requisite signups.
I mean, we can add a sentence or two here in the warrant if you like.
I think having a sentence
Yeah.
that says that this will be a self-sustaining enterprise. And that the funds that we're allocating will be paid back.
Mhm. Even though whomever speaks on it will say that. I think that needs.
I think that's an important thing to convey to the people.
Absolutely, I agree.
So Bayon's had about a week, I think, that went out. I'm looking here, the 25th,
He said 2 weeks, hasn't he? Oh, it's only been,
the
he
25th
only
of
sent
March.
it out 1 week?
That's really reason. Also, could you put parallel language in there after fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25? I assume the operating expenses are coming out of each of those years, so you should use the same language. Call them both launch operating expenses. The other one's called to pay the operating costs. And I think
Oh, I
it should
see.
read the same.
Yeah, that could be parallel.
And it should just read the same, so that everybody knows you're talking, that money's going to the same pot.
Yeah.
Do you want to put anything in there about, because we had as part of the proposal that the launch service would be retired if it didn't, make a profit after or break even after 3 years. I mean, we had very specific
Mhm.
language in the proposal. Would it make sense to put that here so it's very clear? It's not a never-ending drain on the taxpayers.
It doesn't prove to be profitable.
Yeah, it's not profit, that language,
I guess I don't understand item C. I understand that we have to pay up until July,
Mhm,
and I understand that we have to pay for the votes
right.
in advance. But the other 41,000 should come out of the receipts that he should have in hand on April 15th.
Maybe. I mean, the point should be made that that money is getting paid back. A and C is coming back into the treasury. And that's not necessarily put in here. I mean, B is over a period of time,
Right,
but A and C should be coming back in fiscal year 25.
immediately. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe C should be, I understand you need the money for A, but maybe C should be up to 41, and obviously it's gonna be a lot less, but,
So you can't.
oh, you gotta
approve
have a
numbers.
specific number.
Yeah, you have to approve a specific number. You can't say up to. Or not exceeding. You
And
have
we
to-
are giving it 3 years. So if we're saying that it has to be at least break even in 3 years, are we saying, okay, it can be supplemented for 1, but still has to be paid back?
I thought we were requiring that he have people with checks.
Yep. in
Yes,
hand.
but we were giving him the number of checks in hand, the number of customers
Mhm.
that we were asking for this year
Mhm.
was more than they had last year.
Yes,
Okay.
about a third.
So we were
Mhm.
going to give Bion a few years to find the right price point and customer count to make sure we're consistently breaking even, or better yet, making a profit.
Okay.
I was just trying to dig up the language that we had.
So I think we need to be careful about not helping it to give it a shot by
So.
not funding.
Would the ceiling, would the limit be that he would have to have this year to go forward?
Interesting. It's been like 3 weeks since I've looked at it, and honest to God, I can't remember. Just bringing it up.
I mean, he had 55 and it was going to about 55 and he needed to go to 70.
We definitely need to go up, but we weren't, I just want to make sure I get the language straight. Greg, do you have the proposal handy?
I can get it. I mean, basically, we said
Right at the moment.
Yeah, give it right handy.
It just,
so that, yeah, the intent was that it would go forward if he was close. And that, in fact, in the first year, we weren't anticipating repaying the capital
Capital.
expense. We saw that coming in year two, so there's a little bit of a cushion there. But ultimately, it's gonna come down to a judgment call come, mid-April here. Do we think we have enough people to justify it going forward? And we can make that call at the town meeting, whether or not to recommend passing this over if we don't feel there's a sufficient number. But the language in the business plan said that it would, the operations would have would have 3 years in order to break even. So
Right, but there was some language in there about not losing more than 10%. I
Yes.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
the language talked about, it would be within 10% of total cost.
Can't find it. I just can't find it.
I've got a summary of the stuff here, but I don't have this, I just have a break-even analysis and project P and L comment.
It was what week did we discuss this? Should have been in our package, the full,
Was that your last meeting, the 18th, was it not?
the 18th?
Should be in the minutes in your package
Would
tonight.
be in our package for the 18th.
But I did watch it and
Give the agenda packet.
Okay, launch service, the discussion
Yeah.
revolved around the launch service.
You-
proposal.
You had that report in your last packet.
Last packet. Okay,
Right.
that's-
The report says the service would cover all operating costs starting the first year. Projected recovery of the purchase cost will take 7 or 8 years. That's in the plan.
So do we need item C in Article 6?
To your point, that's what you're
I
saying.
think so.
You still have to appropriate the money, even if it's
Yeah.
coming 100% from fees.
Ah,
Right.
okay,
Okay, I get it, right?
fine.
Even if you don't use it.
Even if you don't use it, you
Yeah.
have to have. I'm sorry, Greg, did you want to answer that?
Answer, yeah,
Um,
even if you don't gonna use it, but if you anticipate using it, then you need to appropriate it.
All right,
Okay, so this is not like the parks revolving fund where,
No, this is not set up that way, at least not yet.
okay,
so I'm reading what was in our business plan was if not enough customers are obtained to cover expected operational costs, the service will not run that season. Okay?
okay,
And if the service experiences a 10% profit shortfall, a loss, over a 3-year period, the service will be discontinued and the launch boats will be sold. So when we have budgeted such that we, we're setting the fee to cover all the costs, right? Including the repayment of the boats.
Mhm.
But what we said, as long as Bion collects enough money basically to cover the salaries and everything else, we would start it this year and give him, the 3 years to find the right price point and
okay.
number of customers. That's the language I was looking for.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions on Article 6? Other than we should decide who is going to speak to it and be sure that at the meeting we're clear about
Yep.
what the details of the rules are.
Motion to approve Article 6 as written.
I think we still may want to have a sentence,
Yeah.
further sentence saying that this
Self-support.
self-supporting
Yes,
entity.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you wanna-
Greg, will you be amending that?
So the launch service is to be fully funded by user fees, just as a
That's fine.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
fine.
declaratory statement.
Yep,
Okay, motion to approve Article 6 as amended.
second.
Discussion, John?
Yes.
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 Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that one was easy because it's in the numbers that we can all understand. Here we go into the $7.5 million range.
So yes, Article 7 is the bond vote.
Yes,
This would be subject to a ballot approval as well. So it again is seeking that 7.7, I'm sorry, $7.55 million, 4.1 for capital improvements to the water system. And 3.45 for payments to the improvements to the wastewater system.
Mhm.
So Greg, you said this will also go on a ballot later on?
Correct. It'll be as part of the town election.
Okay,
And it's
If it gets
excluded debt.
passed.
I'm sorry?
It's excluded, it will be on the ballot as excluded debt.
Correct. This is proposed as a debt exclusion, which means it's outside of the limits of Prop 2.5. So it's anticipated that it'll take a couple of years before the debt service fully hits the tax rate. Depending on how quickly the projects move forward, we could do some bond anticipation notes, which incurs a little more interest payments because you're paying interest but no principal. But it's a way to make sure we needed all the money and before bonding for the full amount. And typically there's a year delay. When you borrow the money, the first payment is a year later. So we would anticipate this hitting the tax rate in 27, fiscal 27. And if it was the full 7.5, it could add another 2.5 percentage points to the tax rate.
each percentage point is worth how much? To the average homeowner?
Each percentage point,
Yes,
2.5
say
is.
$300 or,
No. Each percentage point is not even 100. Typical 2.5% increase is around. It's around the two, for easy numbers, it's around $250.
okay.
Further questions on Article 7? Motion?
Motion to approve Article 7.
Second,
Peggy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John says yes.
Article 8 is,
So this is the funding for the library
Mhm.
matching grant. So this is taking approval, redirecting 150,000 of the 200,000 that was previously appropriated.
Mhm.
As a match toward what is hoped to be a grant from the state to pay for a study to look at options for renovations and or expansion of the library.
I have concerns about this from the standpoint that when the monies were first approved, weren't they approved for the restroom renovation? And I think to now, I think that,
Yeah, where did the restroom renovations stand? They decided they don't need them anymore? I forgot where this one stood.
Well,
They,
there's still a high need. They could not find a suitable place in their minds that didn't compromise programming and other spaces too highly. So they were not able to find what they felt was a suitable place that would not have too big of an impact on library operations. And that they really feel like they need to look at this whole picture renovation expansion idea to find appropriate space for the needed restrooms.
I just find it a little disconcerting that, that it's being, it was approved for one thing, and now we're trying to morph it into a different application. And I'm not, I don't know if I don't feel comfortable with that.
It is a reappropriation.
I
And
understand that,
it's
but I.
straightforward. So 150 is going here and the other 50 is going to these other two projects on Article 5.
Article 5, yes.
So here's a thought. Because this came up at FinCom meetings previously, is that, if appropriated money sits unused for like 2 or 3 years or whatever, it should go away, right? If you haven't used it, right, it should go away. So maybe the way we could handle this is there a way to eliminate, cancel the prior appropriation of 200,000, because they're not gonna do the bathrooms, so make the money go away, and then have that be one article, and then have a separate article requesting the 150, rather than blending it together.
I mean, you can do that, but that'll be the effect. If you say no to this article, then that 200 will, depending on what
That's
happens.
the
in
point.
Article 5.
That's the
In
point.
Article 8, 150 of that will flow back into the fund balance. The net result is the same, but you could do it in those two different steps. I mean, it's not sitting in.
Also, the net result is not the same. The net result is only the same if both of those articles I proposed get approved. If Article 8 does not get approved, they get to keep the 200, I guess.
Well, no.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, the 150 will flow because it's a timing issue. So we were allowing it to, free cash wasn't certified. I'm sorry, let me back up. Free cash is certified as of July 1 of every year, or June 30th of every year by the state. And so as of last June 30th, that 200,000 remained on the books. It was still reserved for the restroom project. And so the only way to get at it now, rather than wait until it flows into the fund balance, is to reappropriate it. But if we don't do anything, it will flow into the fund balance, and then you can appropriate out of the fund balance.
But I guess what Becky's point was, and what I'm kind of agreeing with is, it feels to me like these are two separate issues.
Yeah.
Do we fix the bathrooms now? Okay. And separately, do we support design for a renovation? They're two different things.
Right, and I think it's much clearer if we do it in the 2 steps.
I mean, I may not have suggested the proper 2 steps, but how long has it been since the items were originally appropriated? 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
Mhm.
I mean, there's been no movement on those bathrooms, so.
But they, the trustees do not want to go forward with the renovation of the bathrooms.
Okay, then we should take the money away and
Right.
have a separate article that says, talks about what they do want to do, and they can stand on their own.
That's how I feel. I just think it's much.
Can we divide this article into 2 separate votes? Because there have been
Oh, okay,
other, Alan, please.
Yeah,
that's enough, yeah.
and Sarah has her hand up after Alan.
Alan? You have the floor.
Just from the standpoint of meeting efficiency and effectiveness, it seems to me that doing it in a single step, when that's the intent, makes more sense than dividing it into 2.
Sarah?
Yeah, I think we looked at this quite a bit. And originally we talked about having the 200,000 go back into free cash and then have new appropriations for the library. but we lose a year in the expense so that we're taxing people for money that's going to free cash because we're using all of the reserves up to the 8% and we don't want to go any deeper. If the 150,000 is not passed, then that will remain the original capital appropriation. And then next year we can move it to free cash.
So I guess that makes sense, but it feels like we still have $50,000 left in,
Yeah.
I don't want to say play money, that's not the right phrase, but shouldn't whatever we do in this article equal $200,000? Why would we leave them with $50,000 in a bathroom budget that we know they're not going to use?
So
was
it's
my under-
slated,
oh.
it's slated to be reappropriated in Article 5.
Yeah,
For
Oh,
those,
in
for
Article
those,
it's already there in Article 5.
Yeah.
It's already in Article.
those,
And-
so
and-
items 9 and
21.
9 and 10 in
21.
Article 5
So
is
that's what-
spending that remaining 50,000.
So we're already reappropriated. We've already reappropriated 50 of this.
No.
If it
that's being
passes.
If it
asked.
passes, but let's just say it's already, it was an article that we said okay to
This is
Right,
for the
right.
others.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, Brian and I are talking over here that we've already approved something. We've already taken away, if we approve Article, the budget or Article 5, excuse me, then we've already taken away 50. If Article 8 does not go forward, we're leaving them with $150,000 that they don't want to use. And I guess we'd have to wait another year to move to free cash.
I think this needs to, if it's going to go forward as one article, I think it needs to be rewritten because this was approved 3 years ago for fiscal year 22. And I don't think it's I think it needs to be rewritten if I'm gonna approve it.
Okay, Alan, do you have any thoughts on the fact that we are using part of the 200,000 from the appropriation that we're revoking in Article 5, and then in Article 8, we're doing the actual saying that we're taking the money out of the bathroom appropriation?
So the motion for Article 5 will list
Mhm.
that same language about reappropriating
Yeah,
50
it's-
of
It's just
Of the
50,
200.
yeah.
Would it
You
not?
don't see that in the article, but the motion will specify
Okay,
Can
that
we,
detail.
we were to
Right.
move Article 8
Before
or
Article
Article
5.
5,
Yeah.
I think then it becomes then it becomes clearer. That makes sense.
Mhm. And I think it needs to be restated in a way that is just,
that's a little awkward right now unless we have the restatement because
yeah.
it's too late for us to post for another meeting before the warrant has to close.
Sarah has her hand up again.
Yes.
Oh, still.
It was my understanding that the reason why we needed this separate article was because we have to accept the grant and therefore it couldn't be contained within the capital segment, and therefore it had to be separate just because we have to accept the grant. Is that right,
That's
Greg?
correct. Yeah,
Well,
that's
apply
correct.
for. It doesn't say, it says to apply for.
Yeah.
Accept, and so not just accept, I mean, it still has to
Right.
be applied for.
Oh. Right, allow them to apply for the grant. Sorry.
If people agree with, that's where I'm just, I mean, this is, in my opinion, putting the cart before the horse. Before it's really been explained what it is the library is wanting to do. Or they want to get a grant and monies to look into expansion. And I think, has it even been explored if there's an appetite throughout town to do that?
I think that's what this vote is all about.
I
Yeah, so what happens if this vote gets turned down? What happens to the other 50,000 that is appropriated based on this?
They already have it.
That still goes through.
They
It
have,
goes
they have the
through.
200,000. The 50 is already there. We're just taking that out of the 200 and using it.
Okay, but, this article is where we specifically say that we are taking the 200,000.
It's just saying 150
It says
of the 200.
150.
Yeah,
So it's
right.
simply 150. It's not touching the other 50.
Okay.
It's just saying, let's take
So
this.
we explain in that we'd have to explain in Article 5 that there is $200,000 that the library doesn't want to use,
Right,
and that's where that's coming from.
right,
Okay.
Well, it does say reappropriate.
right.
That'll be-
We're in fact doing the same with both, in both situations. It's just that the second one is broken out because we have to apply for and accept a matching fund. That's the only reason it's there. Otherwise, it would have been number 11 under library.
Right, and this 50, it's still taking restroom renovation funds. to
Yes,
do walkway
and
repairs.
reappropriating for that, and just like it's taking the 150 and putting it toward this,
But that's a whole, I think,
exploration.
different type of application than really modifying expansion use.
So if Article 8 is turned down, it has no impact on anything in Article 5?
Because
I don't think it does.
that 50,000 is separate.
That's already been appropriated, and it says reappropriate.
Okay.
But the motion for Article 5 will include that detail. It'll say, and to reappropriate 50,000 of the 200,000 that was previously
Right.
appropriated for the library restrooms.
So
So
if
in both-
this Article 8 gets approved as is currently worded, then they get their money to pursue the renovation.
150,000.
If it does not get approved, then we have to wait a year to take it away.
That's a problem for the library commission because these requests for proposal come up like every 5 years.
Mhm.
And the deadline for this is this summer.
No, I know. I'm just saying if the voters do not approve this,
Then,
how do we take?
Then that 150
Right.
would flow into the fund balance that would get certified this coming summer. And it would be available to expend in FY 26.
Available to spend by the library?
No,
by anything.
By any,
have to be reappropriated. It'd have to be appropriated.
Yeah,
Not a
because
fund
they haven't
balance.
used it, have not used it in.
I understood, but I didn't understand that. I thought there was no expiration, that we had to enforce that and move it, and I just wanted to understand the mechanism.
The other thing is that this appropriation, I know, isn't a foregone conclusion. They have to apply.
Mhm.
And if they get turned down, the money goes nowhere.
Correct.
And then return back to the.
Yes, then it would go into the. Well, actually, I guess it would get turned down after July 1, and you have to certify that for July 1.
Right, but so
And you don't know if that money is going to be available or not by July 1.
the state,
Let's
the
worry
state,
about it next year.
I wouldn't worry about it, but
Okay. So,
I understand the concerns. I think that all of these details need to be part of the debate and the discussion that'll surround Article 8.
yeah,
So tonight we are approving the language in the warrant, but not
If
whether
we
or not
agree
we
with it.
recommend approval, or are we,
If we agree with it.
right, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I,
So we do need to know whether or not you want to recommend or make your recommendation at the town
Okay, 'cause
meeting.
we haven't done that on the others, and on this one, there's a little bit of, there may be some disagreement, so I'm just clarifying, to date, I think we have just approved the warrant. We did not specifically say whether or not we recommend those other articles.
there have been times that we've not, and it's just, it doesn't have to be unanimous to be
Right.
per.
Right.
Petition.
Right, understand.
Of the
we
select
can,
board.
we can even.
Just takes
but we can-
majority.
We can take a position on.
Yeah.
we should probably go back and clean up and
That's all I'm
agree
saying.
that we want
The other articles.
for the other. So could I have a motion to recommend Articles 1 through 7?
So moved.
Move. Second,
Yeah, Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes,
Okay. Now, we will agree to put Article, do we have a motion to put Article 8 on the warrant with our recommendation to be made on town meeting floor?
I'll move that.
Yep. Second.
Okay. Further discussion? Becky,
No,
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
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 Anne? Anne. Okay, okay, so we get to debate this one again some other time.
Yeah, no, it's already, I forgot what we're talking about.
Okay. And Article 9 is the Masons. Discussion,
nope, not by me.
motion,
I make a motion to accept Article 9 as written.
Second,
Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Anne says yes.
John says yes. I would like to make one comment. The seniors would like to make this as soon as they can on the agenda here. It's Article 9. But I guess they want to get to bed. So they're just saying if it can be moved up at all, although I don't see
It's
practically.
before the school discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could, you could put it right after Article 5. Could be Article 6 and just move everything down one.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, so. Do we need a motion to
Recommend.
recommend that Article 9 become Article 6? And then we move each one up from there? So, Article 9 becomes Article 6, Article 6 becomes 7, 7 becomes 8, and 8 becomes 9.
was there any, Greg, was there any method to the order in which you put these articles together, or is what Becky say fine?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I was trying to group the capital projects together but what
Okay.
all of those come in is not particularly material.
Okay, so the parents get to stay up late and the seniors get to go. Nice.
It sounds about right.
Okay. Have we specifically recommended Article 9? Or
Was there a motion?
Yes,
or
we
Did you already move? Did we finish?
Well,
that
I
motion?
made the motion to change the numbering,
Okay. I
but
don't think we
nobody made
finished
a
that.
second.
Nobody seconded. I'll second it.
Okay. So this is,
Do we need to vote on that?
Numbering. I don't know. Do we need to
Yeah, that's-
vote on this to change the numbering and move the articles around, Greg? You don't
No,
need to do that?
that'll just be part of the whole warrant package and
Okay, great. Never mind.
okay, so do we want to go in the town report as supporting this? Yes. Okay,
I make a motion. Select board. Let's just go for it. Recommend this article.
Second.
Article, whatever. it
Six.
is.
Second.
Six.
Article 6.
Second,
okay, Becky.
yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes,
Okay. Article 10.
so this is a bit of a housekeeping item. So we have received some opioid settlement monies. And those funds went into, basically flowed into the fund balance. Because the state hadn't given us permission to create special accounts, now we can do a special account. And so we want to create the special account and transfer from fund balance that 8,000 plus almost 9,000 into this new account.
there a motion to do so?
So moved
Second.
and to recommend as well.
And to recommend approval.
Mhm.
Okay, Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John says yes.
Article 11.
That's the general school budget, both operating and capital.
Discussion?
I move to approve move to approve and recommend Article 11.
Second,
Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay.
So Article 12 is the funding for the feasibility study for potential new elementary school in Essex.
Mhm.
So our share is estimated to be 660,000. That's not a hard and fast number, but it should be sufficient.
Huge amount of money.
It's $1.5 million feasibility study.
Yeah.
How is this split, Greg? Or,
It's 1/3 goes to the district
Mhm.
of the 1.5 million.
okay.
The remaining million is divided according to the capital apportionment formula. I
Good
think
one.
it's the capital apportionment formula, but in the regional agreement.
Which is roughly 2/3, 1/3.
You want a motion?
Yes,
Motion to approve and recommend Article 12.
Second.
So just so you know, this is being proposed as a capital exclusion, a one-time capital exclusion to raise those funds outside of the limits of 2.5. And therefore, it also requires a ballot vote. And as I said, it's a one-time, so it would go away after the 1 year. So this would basically raise the taxes just under 2.2%. And your operating budget was coming in at 2%.
so. And that's the end of the taxation, articles on taxation? Is that the end of it? So the net increase in for the tax bill to be
4.1, is it?
Yeah, 4.2 rounded, yes.
discussion? Motion? Well, I'll move to approve and recommend Article 12.
Second,
Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay. And the next is also a school article, and this is the final part.
Mhm.
Is it Highland or is it Brook?
This is Highland.
I know it says Highland,
No, but isn't it, it's the one across the school, I
At
mean,
the
the high
school.
school, right?
So we-
At the school.
okay.
I thought it was Highland, yeah.
Because we did Highland was done first,
Right.
and then Brook was done.
Right, yeah.
So the school fronted all the money to pay
Yeah.
for both projects.
Mhm.
And basically, the contribution back from the towns are replenishing their reserves.
Okay. So is this?
If you want to just say to cost refurbish the turf fields, that's fine. You don't have to
Why don't
specify.
we just make it the turf field so we don't have to,
Mm,
we have already paid,
I think we need to be specific.
we already paid for half of Brook Street,
Mhm.
and we haven't paid for anything else.
Then we paid an additional 400,000 towards the projects combined. So we have paid $800,000. We originally thought we would owe 1.2 because we thought the total price was gonna be 1.6 in total. The total price came in a little better. So our total cost is 1.048.
I think I would be happier if it were the turf fields. Because
Open questions.
the. Because of what Greg just explained, that the school paid for all of it.
Okay,
And we paid for town's half of Brook Street.
Yep.
And we paid another 400 for uncertainty. And now we're finishing up the turf field projects.
Do you want, should the article say that, I mean, are we in a sense repaying the school district?
Yeah, the agreement was that the school district would front the money so that they could get the work done in finite time.
Right, and my question is, do we want to be that specific in the wording of
Right.
the article? Because we really don't have a choice here.
and it's not a funding, it's
It's
a
not funding,
refunding.
it's repaying the school
Yeah.
district, however we want to phrase that.
Yeah,
Well, the town's final share of the cost.
but I think Kathy's point is a good one. Some might think, well, I don't really want to pay for that, so no, and
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. Language,
I was just suggesting, for the purpose of
Repaying?
repaying
The town's final share.
Manchester Essex Regional School District for the town's final share of the
Yeah.
cost.
That's fine. That's what's happening.
Mhm. To refurbish the turf fields. Plural, right? Just the
Mhm.
turf
Yes,
field.
keeping,
Okay. Second,
All right, so it's just Terps, not Highland, just say Terps.
just turf
Turf
field.
field.
Because they fronted all of the money anyway for both
Yeah.
fields, so it really. It's fungible, could be for anything, either field.
Greg, Debbie, do you have that language?
I will once I hear it.
Okay.
You-
Okay, this is to see if the town will vote to appropriate or transfer from available funds, blah. To reimburse the school district.
How about for the purpose of repaying the town's final share of the cost to the school district to refurbish the turf fields, comma, or take any other action related thereto? Is that?
Purpose. I don't.
Again, I would suggest that these are the kind of details that get discussed when you
Right.
make the motion and explain the article.
Okay,
No, I think that the clearer we make the article, the better. I mean, we're not funding, we're repaying.
Make that statement and send
purpose of.
Which is a distinction that most aren't gonna really care about, to be quite honest.
too many words that confuse people.
Mhm. But I think I would like to say that we're refurbishing the cost of refurbishing the town, the
Turf
turf
field.
fields. And we can explain the whole history.
Okay,
You-
motion to approve and recommend Article 13 with the amendment of removing at Highland Field and inserting fields.
second,
Okay. Becky?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
yes.
And just yes.
John, yes.
Okay. Okay, Article 14 is the community preservation committee's recommendations. There,
I'll move to approve and recommend Article 14 as printed.
Second,
Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay. Article 15 is the easement,
Mhm.
and, for access and parking at the housing authority and with the details to be filled in. Appropriate. Questions? I assume that someone else has those numbers and,
Yeah, we'll get those filled in tomorrow.
okay, great.
Just a question on this, Greg. Has any discussion in DPW been had with regard to when this project's going to be done or what the cost is?
Yeah, so that's part of the CPC project. You'll see it listed as a $20,000.
Oh, is it up there?
Yes,
Okay, all right, we're all set.
so that, yeah, those are the dollars to cover it.
Yep.
I make a motion to accept and recommend Article 15.
Second? Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
And Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay. This is. The next article is $100,000 for FY 24 legal expenses.
So this is where we started the meeting a while ago when we talked about legal expenses.
Feels like about 3 days ago.
Right.
Yes.
I move to approve and recommend Article 16 as presented.
Second.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay, Article 17 is the OPEB payment, which we make every year.
Motion to approve and recommend Article 17?
Second.
Yes.
Becky says yes. Brian.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay. Article 18. This is
So this is the annual Park and Rec revolving fund, but we have now added the Board of Health revolving fund as well. So you see the two different programs and we set the maximum dollar amount in and out for those two funds.
questions, discussion.
Yeah, so Greg, for these numbers here, so this is kind of the cash going in and out, but is the cash, the delta at the end of the day or the end of the year, is it expected to kind of break even or what's the story?
At a minimum break even, there's oftentimes a little left over because some of the collections may exceed the actual expense for a particular program.
You're right. Okay,
Just
but they're
depends on-
expected more or less to to be even. This isn't necessarily it's a cash outlay, but it's just working capital, so to speak.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have have it be left at a limit without giving a specific amount of what the spending will be?
Correct. I mean, so the whole concept of the revolving fund is you collect monies for certain programs, those monies go to pay for that program. And it varies how many programs you're doing in a given year. It varies how many participants you have, for a particular program, whether it be the after-school program, whether it be, special trips, whether it be summer program and field trips, et cetera. And then on the Board of Health side, it's not that we want it to happen again, but if we have to set up vaccination dispensing sites, we would have the ability to collect the monies and then have those monies go right out to pay for that without having to worry about having had appropriated those dollars ahead of time.
Motion to approve and recommend Article 18?
Second,
Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay. Article 19 eliminates, tobacco product lines and, goes back to rely on, other bylaws in the state statute and regulations.
Didn't we just approve these in the last meeting? I thought, isn't that what the Board of Health brought forward in the last meeting?
So there's two sets of regulations. One are part of our general bylaws.
Okay,
And then another is a set of Board of Health regulations, which are separate.
okay.
So this is dealing with the general bylaw.
Motion to approve and recommend Article 19.
Second. Kathy.
Yes.
Sorry, Becky.
Yes.
One of these people thinks, Brian.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Okay,
There.
Thank I will pay attention. Okay. Number 20 is the stormwater management. Greg, what do you recommend?
So with respect to, with all due respect to Chuck, I think we need to hold off on this one. I think there's more material here than we have really publicized, and I'm just a little fearful that we haven't laid the groundwork and gotten the word out enough on this one. So what has happened here is the state DEP came up with some recommended stormwater management bylaw language. We adopted that a couple of years ago, was it? Maybe not even. And then DEP reviewed what the state had done and said, wait a minute, folks, you missed some things. So they've added a lot of definitions, which if that's all they were doing, then it probably wouldn't be, it'd probably be fine to go ahead. But they've also, changed some procedures, changed some inspection procedures and language. Again, it's all being recommended and is a bit of a boilerplate, but I am a little concerned about the volume of changes here. And the lack of time we have to get that information out to the voters.
There are a couple of problems with the text. There are two definitions which are different for impervious surface. There are some numbering glitches.
I agree. This one, I had a really hard time getting through the changes. I honestly, and this doesn't meet my test of making it easy for people to do the right thing. So I personally need a lot more help with this one.
I asked to hear from Chuck.
Sure.
Chuck, would you mind weighing in on what we were saying?
Yeah, I do recognize that, this is kind of last minute and wasn't my intention. We were contacted by EPA, a month or two ago, Greg, not even. So this is kind of par for the course for them. This is part of our MS4 permit, which is basically our ability to operate our drainage, just like we operate a wastewater plant, a water plant, this is that permit. And so these changes will be required. They are required. This, not being able to do them will mean we're out of compliance technically, but I don't, think that I'm going to go to jail over it. So I think you guys are safe.
Right.
And then I would say from there, we can do some more outreach and, get some more, stuff online and whatnot. But, so these are coming directly from EPA, like Greg said, and I would anticipate that there are a lot of other municipalities that have the same issues. And they weren't really looking at the calendar with respect to town meeting when they, reached out about this stuff. So, that's generally where we're at. I will say these are incorporating some new LID, light infrastructure design with regards to stormwater management. So that's like kind of a new thing for MS4. So there are kind of like, they were just trying to get everything. So that's all. But yeah, we could try again in the fall or whenever.
Do we have a time frame within which we have to comply or buy? funds?
Yeah, so technically the bylaw needed to be adopted, like Greg said, a few years ago. That was like a requirement of our MS4 permit. And so, that's what we tried to do. Them under realizing that it was out of compliance, came up now. And so technically by not adopting it, say as soon as possible, we will technically still be out of compliance because we're not, mentioning the things that they're looking for. But again, so it right now basically is the time frame, but I don't think there's really a material difference between now and 6 months from now.
And this won't impact funding or FEMA or anything else like that?
No, this is more, I think when we do an annual report for MS4 every year, and as part of that report, there is a, checkbox like, have you adopted the bylaw? This year in that report, we'll say we adopted the bylaw. We need to make, the changes, per your whatever email. And so like, they'll see that we're in work in progress. So I don't foresee it being an issue with.
You can just
funding.
say, we are, it's in process to be presented at fall town meeting.
Yep. Which is essentially what we did, honestly, the first couple of years that it was required, to be adopted in general. Because it was like right along COVID, so it was like, we're trying to have a short town meeting, so we didn't do it because of COVID, yada, yada, yada. So
Yep.
it's not that much different.
Motion to remove
Second.
proposed Article 20,
Mhm.
Is it Article 19? In Article 20.
20? Are we doing,
It's,
20.
oh, I'm sorry.
20, just
I'm
20.
Sorry. I second that.
Okay,
Yes.
so the vote is not to put Article 20 on the warrant.
Mhm.
correct,
Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Kathy, yes.
John, yes.
Okay, 2021, which would then become 20.
So I would recommend the same motion, that you do not need to move forward with this. That, in consulting with town council, the second time around, you feel that it's not necessary, that there is sufficient language in the bylaw to allow for those second driveway entrances, if the planning board were to approve them. There's some other issues with that process, but in terms of the bylaw allowing it, it's not essential to do.
I move that we not recommend putting the article about the driveway curb cuts on the warrant.
Second,
Becky?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And says yes.
John, yes.
Article
20.
22, which is a citizen petition. We don't have an option not to put this on the warrant. I suggest that we make our recommendation on town meeting floor. And so I move that we place Article 22 as
Now
a citizen
20.
petition. Now 20. Thank you. And make our recommendation on town meeting floor.
Second,
Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the last one, housekeeping.
I move to approve and recommend Article 23 as presented.
Second,
Oh, now Article 21.
yes.
21,
Maybe 20.
20?
No.
No,
21.
21.
21. Okay, yeah, you're right. I can't. Okay. Becky,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Answer yes.
John, yes.
Okay.
Now who does what?
Now, is there anything else we need to do on the warrant?
Tonight.
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 Do we need to decide who's doing what tonight?
I don't think we can do that at this meeting on the 16th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Greg, have you frozen or are you?
I think he's frozen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll be back.
Okay.
We can ask Alan.
Alan, do you think have we done what we need to for your purposes?
Yes, for tonight. Obviously, we do need movers, seconders, and speakers eventually, but I don't think we need them tonight.
Okay. Here. I believe we have finalized the budget, approved the warrant, and discussed the articles.
Yes.
The wayfind, the next article.
Can I ask, if, because we have someone waiting in terms of consent agenda, that we move consent agenda ahead of wayfinding? Since I am the only one here to
Yes,
talk on that.
certainly. Okay, we're moving to,
Madam Chair,
yes,
if we're done with the warrant and town meeting, I think I will sign off.
but there are so many fascinating things yet to come.
Yes, but that's why you guys get paid the big bucks.
Thank you.
That line item
Thanks for you.
again this year.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Yep.
Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, and I'll see you on the 16th, I guess.
Yes.
Good night, Alan. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
So I'm sorry, Ann, I had a glitch in my connection.
We proceeded
We
without you,
noticed.
everything's fine.
Yeah.
Don't
We
worry.
covered everything. We're done.
Nerves will slow down.
We moved consent agenda up, just so that we can. let-
So I just didn't know where you stood with the pickleball issue.
Oh,
With what?
Oh,
Oh, we haven't gotten there.
Right,
Where's
but that has bearing on the warrant.
Okay, sorry.
Where is that?
There's some comment. yeah, where does that stand, I guess?
I guess I don't see,
I saw
It's,
that.
it's in his.
What does it have to do with the
it's,
warrant?
it's
I'm
in,
sorry.
it's in your memo, but it's not on our agenda.
Well, it's part of the warrant discussion, but
Okay, where?
Mm,
so the question of whether or not to
Yeah, that was,
put
Yeah.
a question of funding. So when you last talked about the pickleball sound barrier, the green light was given to use the revolving fund. And the state has since opined that to use the revolving fund for that purpose would require a vote at town meeting. So if we want to pursue continuing using the revolving fund, we would need to add an article to the warrant to see if voters were to approve using funds from the revolving fund to pay for the sound barriers.
Mm.
The alternative is to use funds out of our maintenance account, the parking fields maintenance accounts, to pay for those out of current dollars.
Mhm.
But there was some hesitancy at your last discussion
Mhm.
to use tax dollars to do that.
On the other hand, at this point,
It's a part, it's down part.
if we put it as a vote at the town meeting, that will delay it even further.
Correct.
Mhm,
Becky seems to be nodding, Kathy's nodding.
Yeah,
mhm.
I think, whatever gets us there fastest is probably best,
Right.
so.
Are these monies in the maintenance account?
Correct.
It's about 15 or 20,000?
Mm. North.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in that 15,000 range, yes.
So I guess the question would be, if we agree to use the money in the maintenance account, is there something else that won't happen?
Um,
Probably.
I don't have so a lot of times there are sort of surprise repairs that are needed, you know, if the field gets torn up during the winter for some reason or another, or,
So that's really what I'm getting at, because it's been a really rainy winter. I just want to make sure if we use these funds for the pickleball sound barriers, we're not in any way preventing the fields from being in good shape for what they're needed this season.
so I can certainly double check on that to make sure that that's the case.
Stu? I don't think we want to put it on the town warrant. is what we're
No.
Getting at,
I
right?
agree. I just, like I said, my only concern is not making sure the fields are in good shape for.
Well,
It's all under, I mean,
the field that on Pine Street is new.
mhm.
I think I'm only concerned about the potential damage for the, had really, not a snowy winter, but a really rainy one.
question, Greg. I assume you've discussed this with Cheryl in terms of this approach. She's the one that has that budget.
Well, it's actually under DPW, but they
Oh, it
work,
is?
they
but-
work hand in hand on figuring out what's needed.
All right. They know of this approach?
Yes, we've talked about it.
Okay,
So, yeah, they were comfortable proceeding with this.
yes, and this is really, I mean, this is fiscal 24. This money's coming out of fiscal 24,
Correct. It's current dollars.
current dollars, and we've got 3 months left.
And it's,
Right.
and it is a public park.
It is.
Okay. I move that we use money
Maintenance budget.
from the maintenance budget to fund sound barriers at the pickleball courts on Summer Street.
Second,
Discussion? Becky,
yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes.
Okay. Does that resolve that to your satisfaction, Greg?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Sorry, we got ahead of ourselves.
I don't think that affects Alan.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect Alan.
That's what Becky's trying to give Teresa funds from.
Final letter go home.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Now, we move the food truck look at the local election for May 21st from the consent agenda to our next article.
Can we
Our next
move both?
discussion.
Much discussion.
Can we do both? All the consent agenda?
Um,
Oh, I see. Yep, never mind.
yeah, and there's no problem doing both, but if we're going to discuss one of them, it's not consent.
Correct.
And I think we need to discuss this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because last time, the location of the truck was clearly outside of the polling area. And this time it's been requested that it be moved to within 150 feet of polls.
No, I think it was
No.
just outside 150, but on the school
Yeah.
grounds.
Oh,
that
is it?
Yeah.
It's outside the 150, but on the school grounds.
Okay.
Where exactly is it proposed?
It's,
Outlying.
did you see at the very bottom, the map that was, and it's circled in red chappy?
Yeah, this is an old.
drone shot when the
Yeah.
construction was done.
Yeah.
But it's, wait, my assumption is, I'm just kind of going by what the tennis courts as the landmark. There's Lincoln Street,
Yeah,
way over here. Now, my question to you is I think that the main entrance to the school is over here or over here. Where is the actual polling entrance going to
the
be?
polling entrance will be at the gymnasium, which is quite close to there.
Yes,
So it's in the same place it was for the
Yes.
primary.
yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, and I,
Walk it off.
I
um,
did go walk things off before I came here.
Therese Meldon. What's your address?
42 Mascanoma Street.
I think that you know, Diane had some concerns about it being that close. And it also would take up some more parking.
Mhm. And that's very convenient parking.
It's very, yes, and I think that,
Perhaps there is a parking area in front of the main entrance to the school, which would be would be off the street, but further from the entrance to the bowling area.
or use the same spot.
The same spot is so far away that, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was successful, but, and even though in May, it's not gonna be dark at 6 o'clock, it's probably gonna
Right.
be dark till
Mhm.
8 or 8:30, right?
It probably won't be sleeting either.
Well, that's just it. It was pretty inclement then. We don't know. But the grilled cheeses were
They
amazing.
were delicious.
Yeah.
So. My desire would be for it to at least be visible from that entrance, and the entrance, I believe, is way over here. This was, I mean, I didn't ask
Could
for
you
that.
flip the map up? Just if you flip the map upside down and what you're holding it, then that gives it. a
Yeah.
more accurate look. Yeah, that's,
Okay. So I think that the entrance that we used at the primary was over here.
mhm.
And this lot, now remember, it's a town election, and yes, the whole purpose is to encourage people to come and vote.
Mhm.
But a lot of those spots were empty. Again, it was probably because of the weather. I don't know what the turnout
And
was.
primaries. I think that was a,
There's another area,
Circle, right?
well, there's the area in front of the school, which is shown here on the more 2/3 of the way to the left, as kind of an enclosed area. The other place that might work, that's probably too close, sorry.
You gotta remember, that was a primary. People show up, they vote, they're gone.
Exactly.
Mhm.
They're here for 2 or 3 hours.
No, this is
the election in May.
Oh, just the election. Oh, this is not the meeting. Okay, this is just the election. Okay.
And from what I understand from Diane is that turnout for town elections, it's just town business, is very small. So I can't imagine that, though, if these spots in fact are 150 feet from the entrance, from the door, the actual door of the facility, right? It doesn't mean 150 feet walk, including the walk into the gymnasium,
Mhm.
correct? Okay. So if that's the case, I mean, it would probably, the truck would just sit down at this end of it.
at the far end.
Yeah, like down.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Do you think that's actually more visible though?
Well, if everybody's coming and going here
Yeah,
and it's here, yeah, I mean, the place I thought would have perhaps been a good spot was over here.
I think I actually think that's not as good as where you were last time.
It was far away.
It was far away,
And
but everybody was
There's a lot of
going
people
by
trying to
it.
cross the street to get there then too, which is gonna,
Yep.
you know.
Diane,
Stay on the ground.
Yes.
Diane is on the meeting and she has her hand raised.
Okay, good.
Yes, Diane.
Hey, Diane.
Hi, everybody. that parking lot is within the 150-foot rule. But even that last parking spot right across the way from the entrance to the gym.
Yep.
Where we use is within the 150-foot rule. So it would need to be away from there. The only way in to the school to park is coming from Lincoln Street. Is that correct? So I think that that might be the best spot. But I don't know, but I just wanted to mention that about the parking lot.
Well, if it's within that 150 feet, I mean, that just negates that already.
Right, that spot.
Is the, parking lot in front of the entrance to the school within 150 feet?
I'd have to check with the police chief and check his global map. But it should be 150 feet from the polling place in a circle. So just from that door in a circle. And that's where we allow people to hold signs. And I've never seen anyone allowed to hold signs in front of the school building either. They're usually down by the street.
It's convenient. Visibility.
Yeah.
Well, the street is way beyond 150 feet, so even if, say this, the end of this circle that this was sent to me, I didn't put the circle on here. So that's within 150 feet,
Right.
then
The,
all of this is within 150 feet, right? So the
Mhm.
people that are down at the end, they're just told they have to be there. They're beyond 150 feet, I think. So.
okay,
Yeah.
is this something that we can put off for 2 weeks?
Oh, sure.
Okay, why don't we get,
Why don't we get an
Get
accurate,
a circle.
an
Get an
accurate
accurate
description
circle,
of where
we will
150 feet is?
try to get you a
And then we can
location?
pick what seems to be the best location for it. If the best place is down in the street, it's down in the street. We'll have some daylight still and it'll be a little warmer. You know, hopefully there won't be a monsoon.
Right.
So, but do I have, I can go ahead and hire the truck.
If you're prepared to have it on Lincoln Street, if that's where.
If that's where it lands, that's where it lands, sure.
Well, can we approve the truck and finalize the location?
That's what.
That's what we're doing. yeah.
Motion to approve the food truck for town election in May,
May 20.
May 21st.
Second. Becky,
Yes,
Brian,
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yes.
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
and we can put,
And Todd has his hand up as well. I think he had some maps that,
I'm sending you that pictures.
what happened?
Todd has his hand up. Sorry. Todd, please.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, I just sent you all the maps of the 150 feet in 3 different directions from the entrance to the polling door. I just sent them to you all right now.
I don't know.
Here.
So
Let's put the location off
Yeah.
until the 16th. Thank you for the maps. We'll use
15th?
them, but
16.
so we're not meeting on Monday, the
No,
15th?
just the
The holiday.
Patriots Day. It's here in
Tuesday.
Massachusetts.
Tuesday the
summertime.
16th.
All right. but-
Patriot Day. No,
So we
okay,
could put it-
the 16th.
I would like to have everybody have
Hmm.
pictures and all I have is my cell phone and this.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Todd.
So I'll see you on April 16th.
16.
16.
The
Yes,
Tuesday.
not
May
April.
16th.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trace. Do I just do motion to approve the minutes as March 18th with the amendment sent to Debbie?
Yes.
Second.
John,
Yes.
Anne says yes. Kathy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Yes.
Becky. Okay. I think we go back now to wayfinding subcommittee update.
Okay, Wayfinding Subcommittee, we met on the 26th to have clarification of deliverables, and the sequence of Q&A. So we are meeting next April 2nd, Zoom, 6 to 7:30. And we will be talking about logo and branding, and have invited Downtown Improvement Committee, Cheryl from Parks and Rec, and Tiffany Marletta for communications. The following meeting will be May 7th from 6 to 7:30. And we have Mark Faberman, who is the consultant, will present several options of branding and logo. And we have invited, again, Downtown Improvement, Tiffany and Cheryl. We will plan on posting an article to the Cricket, and it will go on in Greg's slot to be done mid-May to share the ideas, proposing 2 options that will be put out for feedback, not necessarily to be given the final say, because that comes to the select board. But it will be asking for feedback. Next meeting is June 4th, 6 to 7:30, and that's the mapping session to create the sign types in which locations, including Downtown Improvement Committee, DPW, Chief Fitzgerald, and Cheryl from Parks and Rec. Then we will be meeting with the planning board June 10th to present what we're planning to them. And then hopefully come before the select board for the final meeting, June 17th. For the presentation of what has been determined. Get all that? Would you like me to send you a copy? Here, I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you.
There. I'll send by hand mail. And everybody is invited to attend those meetings. They are public and are posted on the town website. So please come along. It's actually fascinating what has been shown to us so far, the different types of branding and wayfinding that other towns have done, and how you can get so much sent across with a few signs by having them all be similar. Anyway, very fun.
Sounds as if you're making
Rapid progress.
good.
Well, we have it's always good to have a deadline and know what your deliverables are, right, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Plus
the
Marlene
difference.
Dolan,
She's-
she's an
she's
amazing
good.
chair. She is just, she's all over it like butter on bread.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. The next article on the agenda is notary public services. And, Greg, do you want to take this, or should we ask, Diane?
Yeah, Diane's here. She can certainly speak to it, but the tee up is, as you saw from her numbers, a big increase in the request for notary. I mean, significant increases. Area banks, I think, are scaling back, and it's been driving more users to the town hall. The concern about liability has been raised. We have reached out to our insurance carrier to get coverage for it. And then I'll let Diane explain the process going forward and how to help limit some of it to keep it manageable and to keep our liability at a minimum as well, as she compared some notes with other communities. So Diane, if you want to take it from there, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, so I think Notary Public is a great service for the residents. We were having a lot of people come from all over to Manchester to notarize because we were notarizing. You'll see, I sent you the information. There's a lot of town halls that aren't doing it. We started after a training that I had, we did start not using staff as witnesses. We will use anybody who might be a notary in town hall as a witness if need be, but we try not to put any of the staff in that place because they don't have that coverage. And then Christina, my assistant, had mentioned that the liability was an issue and doing things that are very just more legalese. The real estate transfers and wills and powers of attorney didn't seem to be the appropriate place to do it right at the town hall window. So we set up a little notary policies that I'm hoping that you guys will approve. We have a few names of other places people can go for notaries. They come to town hall most of the time because it is a free service that we offer, but Staples, UPS, and there's actually a mobile notary locally that we can give out her number if people want something. So I just wanted you to look at it, make sure you were okay with it, see if you had any questions on it. And that's that.
Question.
Yes.
Diane, I didn't see it in this, but did you want to limit it to townspeople?
I think it says it's a service for the residents.
Says it right at the top.
Mhm.
There we go, solely for the residents, hello.
You know, but there's a lot of people that come in, they work in town or they're dropping their child off. I don't know. There's a lot of people that come from all over to notarize in Manchester. I don't know if they're going to the beach in the winter or what. I don't know.
So I have a question. So I'm not sure if it's Greg or yourself, Diane, but if there is always a reason when businesses stop offering a service, okay? So I just want to make sure we really understand what that reason is. Is it liability? Is it risk? Or is it driving inefficiencies because it's distracting to the staff that might be performing other core services? There's always a reason. So what is the reason why a bank or some other business is not wanting to do this service anymore?
So I think I can start to answer that. The banks aren't doing it because it takes away from their other service, I believe. It's it can be very time consuming. The notaries services that I would think would be easy to do in town hall, you know, affidavits, permission to travel, moving money from here to there. I mean, easy things like that. When people come in with a will or a power of attorney, there's pages of that, and then there's witnesses, and then it's liable. I think the town now has a liability that covers us, but it's still sometimes uncomfortable doing things about wills and powers of attorney and bringing witnesses in. So why I wanted to limit it was primarily because some of that is a little bit uncomfortable at the window, and I don't feel fully equipped to be able to do some of that.
But yeah, so my question was more why the other businesses like the banks, and it sounds like it's driving inefficiencies, it's distracting people from their core services, what you said.
I don't, you know, it's funny with the bank, I'm not sure. I just do know that they were sending everyone to us. And then literally a few months ago, they came over with all their, you had to keep a journal when you notarize, all these blank journals, and said, well, we're not notarizing anymore. And we send them to you. So here, you take these books.
So Greg, you said you were looking at some insurance to cover our liability here. Because it may not be covered satisfactorily already. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, it's an additional,
Okay.
general
Policy. Rule of thumb here, okay, you don't do stuff for free.
Right.
Okay, so we either have to charge something to cover for the cost of the insurance and the labor. Because if we don't do that, then we are incentivizing other businesses which may do notarization to stop doing it, because Manchester will take care of it. And then all of a sudden, we're gonna get a request next year, oh, we need more staff in town hall, people are coming in for, these so as a general rule, when running services, you don't do stuff for free. Sometimes you might do that if you have people sitting around twiddling their thumbs and you can offer a little side service to help keep people busy and keep your customers happy, that's fine. It doesn't seem like that's what we're necessarily doing here. I think the people at town hall here are busy. And I just want to make sure that any additional cost, because the volume has certainly gone up, you're right. Any additional costs, especially for insurance, wondering why we're not charging something.
I can sort of answer that. By state law, I don't think I can charge more than $2 a signature. It might be even less than that.
Isn't someone charging $250? Yeah,
So maybe it's $250.
Beverly's $250, yeah.
Right. So, then you're playing with change and whatnot.
So
I think
guess
it's
my-
important to have a service though. It is a
Yeah.
service for your residents for small things. I think that's what it was meant to be. It wasn't meant
Right.
to do your estate planning.
Understand, I think, so I like that about it. But I'm concerned about the increase in volume. So what's not clear to me are the guidelines that you've outlined here going to restrict the volume enough so that we don't get requests for additional personnel to handle,
But
work.
this is a good start.
Yeah.
We're already cutting out a whole lot of
Absolutely.
big time consuming.
That's
We
right.
could give it a go and then.
I just want to be clear, what is it that we would be doing and how many more than the 300? And how much does the extra insurance cost? That question has not been answered yet, so.
So Diane, right now you're taking all comers?
No, we started putting this up in December.
Okay, so in December, all right, so you've got 3 months, so
Yes.
316 you got for 2023 was all comers.
Yes,
You
All
did
right.
wills and all of that other stuff too? Is that
Right.
what you mean by all
Yes.
covers?
Yes.
Oh.
yes.
Okay, so, and do you know what your running rate is? I mean, you've got 3 months of experience now, things,
I didn't check before I came home,
Back
but
off.
I have been turning people away. So
all
there's,
right, I'd
it's
be
less
curious
than it
about
was.
that. Does
Okay.
State Band Savings offer, notary?
I don't know.
But that's still, they might only do it for their customers. I mean, I think it's a nice service to have for townspeople. And I think that people would be happy to pay $2.50 for a simple document that needs to be notarized.
I'm not sure that paying $2.50 is cost effective. It's just
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
dealing with,
you have to collect the money and track it. I
That's
mean,
the
there's
thing.
a,
And I see what you're saying with
Yeah.
fewer just to be collecting $2.50.
I don't even have 250.
So could we find out what the insurance, extra
I think we
insurance
need to
would
find that
cost?
out. Because if you're gonna
insurance.
say it's gonna cost us, an extra $50 to our insurance, okay, fine.
Right.
But if it's $5,000, no, not interested.
So I'm interested in the insurance cost, and I'm also interested in how your running rate's going.
Yeah,
Those are the two questions that's the right way to phrase it.
Got it.
can we bring this back for the 16th, or are we already jam-packed on there? I don't think this would take long on the
if we
16th.
have the information,
Yeah, that'd be-
like the previous question, if we have the information, we
Yep.
can make a quick decision.
Okay. Could we get that information by the 16th?
Yes.
So we're looking for notary numbers and insurance, added insurance cost or added annual insurance cost. Right. I think it looks good though, Debbie. I mean, Diane. I'm looking at Debbie saying you.
Good, I'm glad somebody else makes that kind of mistake.
Oh, no, never.
Okay. I think we've done that. The next item is review and approve, the parking guidelines, and we have those. And
So I did notice a change that we had requested last time that did not get into this copy. Greg, it had to do with the visitor parking placard. For the visitor parking, it's not required that households have, without off-street parking. So that without off-street parking phrase should not be in there. It's households on, a resident-only parking street, households residing on resident-only, I don't know how you want to phrase it, but oh, too tired. Households on resident-only parking street sections.
Resident-only parking.
Parking or street
Yep.
sections, or because some streets, it's just that section.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are allowed to have visitor passes. It's perfectly fine if they have off-street parking, but they may not have enough for guests. That's kind of the purpose of.
And then, yeah, I had another, which was on the voter placard. It says, and I didn't recall that we did one placard per mooring per owner, but what if there are 4 owners on a boat? I mean, you could have 4 cars coming at one time. Is that? And that's okay? Or do you have? I mean, somebody could just put however many owners on but for Bion's purposes, there's only 1 owner listed for a mooring.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So how do we, I think that it
Okay.
should just be 1 placard per mooring.
Bion's purposes, I don't know.
Bion, I'm.
I mean, I had a joint ownership for quite a while. And he had a copy of the title. He wants to see both names on that, and that's what drove it, but.
So if I recall this discussion, this is a courtesy that we offer that
Right.
a lot of other towns don't. And my feeling was that we left the discussion, it's 1 placard per mooring.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right, we didn't really get
Take
into the
out
discussion.
owner.
So 1 placard per mooring.
Excuse me if I may,
Sure.
you didn't discuss it because it was already in there. It wasn't a change and it's not new. It used to be before I got here that anybody could get a voter placard. And then we brought it back to 1 per mooring. But there are a few and only a few that have joint ownership. But they have a title or a piece of paper that says they are owner of this mooring with so-and-so. And they share the boat. So there should never be a time when that mooring has more than 1 car.
Right, well.
But there might be 2 placards issued to that mooring. Because there are 2 owners, and I really want to say there's no more than 3, maybe 4 of those. Bion gives us those names.
State 1 placard per mooring,
Just one.
per owner, up to 2. Or something like that.
Okay.
What you have to do is on your placard, you've got the license plate of the car. You got 2 plates there because you got 2 owners on 1 mooring.
Yeah.
1 placard,
1 placard, yeah, and you can have the 2
2
owners
plates,
on the
Yeah.
and they can,
placard.
it's up to them.
So it's
No,
1
that-
placard, yeah.
That won't work either because the 2
Oh.
owners don't live together.
We understood that, I understand.
Yeah.
So we don't put a license plate on the placard.
Oh,
We
you
put the
don't?
mooring number on the
Oh,
placard.
that's perfect. So that's,
Because
but
they-
that's the point, 1 placard and they
It's
can.
transferable.
It's
They don't have to live together.
Right,
They can leave the placard on the boat.
right,
Right.
exactly.
I just, it's, again, this is a courtesy. And I think,
I had placards a number of years ago and they did have a license number on the placard. 10, 15 years ago.
and
But then they get a new car, they gotta bring it in, you
Yeah,
gotta
I
change the
understand.
license
Yeah,
plate,
but-
the car's in the shop. But, so you wanna say 1 placard per mooring, period,
Hear you.
Yes.
and then can leave the placard on the boat.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Oh,
can
they
figure
only
it
look
out
like-
on their own.
What, Greg?
I said, I think,
Um,
let the people figure out how they want to deal with the one. park.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's their problem to figure it out.
They're
because,
all the
yeah,
way
it's
out
a
there.
courtesy.
It's gonna go all the
Then-
way up to
It's a
the-
courtesy.
All the way in.
Yeah.
Got it. I'm
Or-
sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
No, I had another on, at the Masconomo, and is Todd still on? Yep, there he is. Okay, the question was, and my question to Todd was, there's no parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Why is it not midnight to 6?
You know, I'm not sure. That was a long time ago, and I think that was because we had overnight parkers for Baker's Island. And that's when the Boda placard came into effect.
Yeah, Roger.
And I'm not sure why it was 2 a.m., not midnight.
I mean, why not just midnight? I think,
No issue with that.
I mean, it doesn't matter either way. There's no real issue that we can speak of that to change it to midnight. I mean, there's some people down there that are fishing late at night, you know, coming in from their boats. So maybe
Okay.
that's why it was 2 o'clock.
okay. Well, that's what I was wondering on that. Then my last question is regarding who the parking clerk is. Do we need to state, is it, because the new parking clerk is it Pat now, Todd?
Parking clerk,
Yeah.
the
Is that in
parking, well, is the parking, are you talking parking enforcement officer or the parking clerk?
The clerk.
The clerk, yeah, well, it's still run through Diane's office, but the parking officer is going to be Michelle,
So these
The
are
hearing
policies though.
hearing
or
officer.
we Typically don't put people's names.
No, I don't mean names, but I mean, it's the policy of the parking clerk, and the parking clerk is located where?
Oh,
Town
which-
clerk's office.
Which department? That's what I'm just trying to clarify. That's it by me.
Dylan, do you have any?
No, I thought it was pretty clear to me.
On the, first page of it, resident stickers are valid rather for the time indicated until the date indicated.
Okay,
Isn't it? So the tags,
These are the regular tags. They have a date on them. They expire on that date.
okay. So, all right,
There, other tags have, like the visitor tags are good for between 2 dates, but these are just,
They have an expiration.
they have an expiration date.
you'd rather say date rather than time.
Yes, until the date indicated. Okay, with those changes, are we prepared to approve the new parking resident sticker policies?
before we do that,
Yep.
are we saying 2 to 6 is good at Masco?
I can imagine a fisherman coming in that way, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. All right, motion to approve the, parking guidelines, with the modification to, boater placards, 1 per mooring per owner,
Visitor parking,
and the visitor parking, Kathy mentioned. Visitor parking, that it's,
remove the phrase without off-street parking. Households on. what we say?
on streets which are resident only.
On streets, households residing on streets which are resident only are entitled, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Motion made,
And a change that Ann had from time to date.
yes, thank you, John.
So those 3 changes.
I'll second that motion. Did you make that motion, Becky?
I did.
Okay,
John,
yes.
Anne says yes. Kathy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
great. Okay, energy aggregation update.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Yep.
Thank you.
We had a question from, a resident. Which I think we all got, about this, and is this something that actually works? And how do they, my question is, how do they separate the green electrons from the brown electrons?
Well, if I could, before we go there, this has already been approved at town meeting.
Okay.
It's just taken us, I mean, Greg's been working on this for some time,
Mhm.
so this is already approved
Okay,
and.
Yep.
There we go.
okay. So it's a question of selecting.
Selecting the vendor.
Yeah.
So, after reading the materials, Greg, that was in the package, honestly, I had a hard time distinguishing the differences. So when faced with vendor selection discussions, it's always nice to have a summary. You know, here's vendor one, here's vendor two, here's the criteria, you know, kind of just a one-page matrix. Here's the criteria used for selecting someone, and then you rate each vendor against the criteria, and you get some sense as to where their strengths and weaknesses are. It's worth going through that if there are significant differences. If there are no significant differences and it's just a price thing, you know, then that's, you might have to go through all the detail, but where is your head here on the comparison?
So they are very similar. Price is not an option. The price they charge is set by state law. They're allowed to take 1/10 of 1 cent per kilowatt hour as their fee for the services they provide us. So from a cost perspective, they're both the same. One firm is solely dedicated to aggregation, and they have done probably double the number of towns than the other firm. The other firm does work in other areas of energy and utility law. So they have a little more diverse focus. We are in the process of checking references and listening to some other communities and their experiences. And so we will pull that together and provide a final set of recommendations for you. I really just wanted to give you an update on where things are. And
What about the savings? As part of the program, are they competitive in terms of, do they offer different savings options?
Yeah, they're very comparable in terms of the savings that they have been able to realize for residents. This is different than your typical solicitation that you might be getting in the mail from third-party suppliers. So we use this aggregator, this vendor, to go out onto the market and secure a multi-year fixed price for electricity on a kilowatt hour basis. And they go out on the market, they advise you when you might want to lock in. You know, sometimes they say, well, the market is very volatile right now. You might want to sit out a few months and wait until things settle down. But then they advise us as when it is timely in their mind to lock in a price, and then that price is fixed for the duration of the contract. People do not have to participate. People can always choose not to participate and continue how they're currently purchasing their electricity. National Grid will always be the provider in terms of the wires and being responsible for billing, and National Grid will always be the face that people interact with in terms of reliability and issues with transmission. That stays the same. What will change is, instead of the default supplier through National Grid, you would be getting your electricity through a new supplier. But again, people have the choice of participating or not. So in terms of trying to choose one firm over the other, not quite ready to make that final recommendation. We will provide you a summary of what we feel each the strengths that each bring to the table. But they are, I will tell you now, they're very similar in terms of their process and track records. As I say, one has done significantly more communities than the other, but they have both done a large number of communities.
So what,
Question.
sorry, go ahead.
So we're getting some references here, Greg. I assume that one of the questions that should be asked is what's the conversion rate in a community in terms of participation? I don't know whether they get a lot of adoption here. I think the savings are around what, say maybe 10% or something?
Yeah,
It's
Typically,
not a
yeah.
lot, but there's some. I think the key thing is that it is fairly steady. And National Grid, as we probably all know, about 2 years ago, went crazy.
right. So National Grid is setting their price every 6 months.
Right, and there's
So
a lot of
you'll pay-
variability here. Here there'll be a lot less.
Right, so under your default service through Grid, you typically will pay more in the winter and less in the summer. Through these aggregations, you have a set fee year round. You might pay a little more than the Grid rate in the summer, but you'll pay even less in the winter to offset what you might pay a little more in the summertime. And yes, typically what they are seeing is, in that 10% range of savings. It
The
also
other thing,
provides,
the other thing, and I attended part of the presentation here. If you've already got a third-party provider for your electricity, you have to abide by whatever contract you've got there. You can't just opt into this. You've got to run it out, or that there's a penalty that they have. Well, a contract, that's your problem. But once you have the option to move, you can move if you wish. And they say that typically in a community, 10 to 15% of people have third-party providers.
So I think that's a good question to ask, Greg, because this is not, you don't opt in, you have to opt out.
Well, you can opt in also.
But I think the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, everybody is put in and then people don't want the service, they have to opt out. It's not an opt-in, it's an opt-out.
that's correct, just like you have to opt, just like you're automatically enrolled in Grid currently.
Right, exactly.
Although people who are on third-party providers, they will not get this offer.
So that's the question, Greg.
Correct.
Okay, so they won't be put in the pool because they already have a contract somewhere else, or do they,
Yes.
or does everybody who has a third-party provider now have to opt out manually?
No, I don't think they put in the pool in the first place.
They're not, yeah.
I can
Good.
confirm that.
I had a question. It said that, when I was reading through these, that, the town will set energy goals that are representative. Who in the town would be doing that? Would that be through the DPW, through your,
Ultimately, it's you as a board.
okay, so just like water,
If you want, if you want an advisory group to weigh in on it, you can.
okay,
So yes, you can offer different levels of renewable energy as part of the portfolio.
right,
You can go.
thank you.
Offer what the state requires currently, or you can go above that. You go up to as far as 100% renewables if you want. Typically, they offer 2 or 3 choices.
I think we don't need to do anything on this right now.
Just waiting on Grid minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to provide an update, and if you had questions, make sure I get them answered for you. And we'll be coming back to you with more details and a recommendation.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're at the town administrator's report.
Oh,
Greg?
You ready for me?
Yep.
I'm sorry. So, yeah, very quickly, tomorrow night, there is a forum that the Town Green Organization is sponsoring on impact of climate change, seeing it as a sort of a broader overview that gets us ready for a set of workshops that'll be held at the end of the month. So tomorrow night is a sort of an overview of impacts that we can expect. Walk through the simulated hurricane that Harvard did for us a year ago or so, and then look at a summary of the vulnerability action plan that Paulson O'Neill did for us last year. And then that will tee up what we will have at the end of the month, end of April, 1st of May, a design charrette looking at specifically at Masconomo Park, and what kind of a redesign might we want to consider so that the park is more resilient to flooding, may be able to absorb waters, and still remain a park that we can use and enjoy. So that'll be a specific project, whereas tomorrow night is more of a broader overview. And then the end of the month, we'll dive into a specific look at Masco and what design options we might want to consider down the road. That was one of the recommendations that came out of the vulnerability action plan, was to take a specific look at Masco and see what sort of new designs we might want to consider going forward. So, like I say, tomorrow night is the webinar that's available. People can sign up through the Town Green website. And then they'll also be doing an hour-long field trip on Friday afternoon at 3, meeting at Masco. And then we'll have the Paulson O'Neill Forum design charrette the end of April and the 1st of May, and we'll put up more information on that as the time gets closer.
That will also be available. They're going to tape that.
I was gonna ask if any of this is gonna
Yeah,
be recorded.
and it's gonna be recorded. I have another
Yes.
meeting, so I can't make that, but
All right.
I'll go on Friday.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Friday as well.
Yeah.
Can't.
So that's that. Second item, I just wanted to touch base with you in terms of annual town meeting and holding some open forums regarding the articles. Couple of different options. We could meet earlier on the 16th, your next meeting, that's the Tuesday, day after Patriots Day. And then again, that Thursday, in preparation for the meeting on the 24th, or would you like to do the 11th and the 18th as 2 Thursdays as a possibility? Putting out there for different options that you think might make sense in terms of giving people plenty of opportunity to ask questions and get informed on the various articles for town meeting. So, don't know if you have strong preference either way, or if you want to think about it and let us know what to set up.
I
Happy-
cannot meet on the 11th.
I like the 16th.
The 16th is our regular, so you're
Yeah.
talking about doing it our regular
Before.
meeting?
Yeah, what is the
No.
ability like on 16?
Pretty full. It's pretty full.
Adding another hour.
Yeah, I can't do the 16th, but I don't have to be it. Y'all don't have to be at all the meetings.
No.
Should we
That's what till all day.
send a text around or for the 8th, see what days?
I mean, is an 18th, can everybody do the 18th? I can do the 18th.
I can do the 18th.
It's questionable.
You have a ball game?
What time are you thinking on the 18th?
Yeah.
Thinking of us, 6:30 or 7 o'clock.
For 1 hour?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I can do the 18th.
I can't do the 18th here, I can zoom in.
Well, that's 3 of us. who can
Yeah,
be
I'm flexible. Depends on the weather forecast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm flexible on the 18th.
I mean, we don't all have to be there.
No,
Um,
Let's shoot the 18th.
One session?
1 second,
What time? 6:30 or 7?
6:30? Is that what you're saying? Greg,
Yeah, 6:30 or 7 is typical, but
7 might be easier for people
Okay.
We're
working.
gonna do one, yeah.
Yeah.
18th, 7 PM.
So what do you think are going to be the hot topics?
That's a good question.
School, but we won't be answering that. Let's see,
Should be, I've seen anything toxic out there, isn't it?
say it again.
There's the watch service, which there are many questions about. There's the library, expansion grant
In the senior center.
and the senior center.
Those are three. None of them are hot. Some of them are, they're warm.
Yeah, but they're,
Mhm.
They're not.
which those questions can be easily addressed.
Should we try to have somebody from the library available to talk about the library?
That might be.
Mhm.
And would you invite, the Manchester members of the school committee or one of them to answer questions on the budget or someone from the school district, just in case? We won't be
I'm not sure we want to, I think that that's
The school budget is an up or down vote.
that's different, yeah, I don't.
And I think if we
That's fine.
try, if during the discussion we get into the details, people get the impression that they get the edits.
Right, right. But, should we have? We have the library, right? What's the, we need? And we would buy on? Yep. About the launch? We need Chuck. Or do we want to just leave it at that?
so we can work on getting, the appropriate people in the room and having information.
I think
We could get Board of Health. I mean, the tobacco thing is just, I think, fairly straightforward.
Yeah,
I think we can answer the tobacco thing.
No.
It's just that you don't want to have the same information in 4 different places.
Right, right.
Actually, I think it's good we're having it on the 18th, because if on the 16th, we're gonna decide who's gonna speak to each article,
Yeah.
then we can make
Yep.
sure that.
Oh, I got
person
some
takes the
homework.
lead on- Right,
Mhm.
you're right. That's good.
Okay. Greg, do you have?
Tiffany?
Yeah, we'll tee up time for more in-depth discussion about what we're doing with communications and the new website, et cetera. So we'll get that teed up for you in the next meeting or so.
The only thing is that is school vacation week. I just thought I'd mention that.
The week of the 16th and,
That's why we're meeting on the 16th instead of the 15th.
well, and school vacation week though,
Doesn't affect
Well,
everybody.
Pick up there.
Okay.
A lot of sports, seasons going.
Yeah. There's the 23rd.
that's the night
That's
before.
before the meeting.
I think
It's got
that's a
tight.
little
Let's do.
Let's
too
do
close.
Okay.
I think this, I mean,
I-
people can add, they can email questions if
Yep.
they have them beyond the meeting.
I think 18th is a good day. It's close enough to town meeting that
Mhm.
they
They
won't
won't
forget.
forget.
Exactly. Week before about, so. You want a motion to adjourn?
I want to check with Greg and make sure that we've covered all of his.
I'm all set, thank you.
Good.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Look forward to seeing you back soon.
Yeah, great.
Yes,
Yeah,
go get
cool.
that arm elevated,
I can wave my arm
Oh,
around.
wow, there you go.
way up.
We want to
way up.
sign your cast.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, no, thank all of you.
Okay.
We vote to adjourn?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
This is my little 4-year-old. You know, there was, like, you got the sky on